This is my 47 years of life lessons combined into one video, both personal and professional. These 9 principles are the ones I'm passing on to my kids. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erkka Suvanto. Some of you call me EJ. I'm the guy on social media who wants to build a legacy and pass on all the life lessons and the business lessons too, to his kids and to each and every one of you. What is it that I have learned over the last 47 years? This video now consists of 9 key principles that I live by personally. And these principles are the ones that have served me extremely well, both professionally and personally. I've had my ups and downs like anybody else, but these are the ones I lean on when the going gets tough. Let's get started. Lesson number 1. Be ready to start all over. Put yourself out of business before anybody else. Owning my own future is everything. My ability to make all the key decisions, control my financial, emotional, and physical destiny as much as possible. That's everything to me. One of the key things related to this is not to get overly emotionally attached to any material things, money, external relationship, or anything. We need to overcome the need for external validation in order to become independent. Learning in life is a combination of unlearning and relearning. People often are mistaken when we talk about learning because we only talk about the relearning, meaning we want to pick up where we left off. But the unlearning, taking 5 steps back, walking all the way back to the bottom of the mountain and finding a parallel path is hard. That's where we typically go wrong. What has helped me a lot is understanding that I can't focus too much on the past or too much on the future. I need to understand what works today. People who get hung up on the past, what worked in the 80s. Kids used to play outside. They didn't have video games. They didn't have social media. Everything used to be better. These are the people who miss out on the opportunities today, whether it's personal or business life. And that usually prevents us from doing a reset, starting all over. We can always ask ourselves, let's play it out. What's the worst thing that can happen? Some people might laugh at me, I lose face, fear of other people's opinions, fear of what my family members say. Nobody's going to die, nobody's going to get sick. It's usually just the idea of losing face or credibility that scares us the most, not the actual outcome. I want to be in a position where I can control my own decisions down the road. And being ready to start all over is one of the key principles that I follow. I've done it actually 5 times, if you count both personally and professionally. I've done 3 major professional resets as an entrepreneur and 2 personal ones when it comes to breakups and divorces. So I know something about it, but also down the road, I'm willing to do a reset at any given day, if so needed. Principle number 2, fear is temporary, but regret lasts forever. I believe fear is the number 1 thing preventing people from taking action and doing things, whether it's ending a bad relationship, starting a business, changing jobs, whatever it is. But fear blocks and stops us from doing important things in life. I wish I is the thing that I'm scared the most. I'm willing to do a lot of things, but regret at the end of the day is what I'm desperately scared of. Because fear is temporary, but regret lasts forever. Every decision in life is a balance between short-term pain versus long-term regret. If you really think about it, you go to a grocery store and you pick between 2 ice cream flavors. And you've decided that, or you can only afford to buy one. So it's a tiny example of that versus then a gigantic one depending on whether you should end a relationship or change locations or change jobs. Every single decision is a balance between those 2. I always picture myself being in my deathbed, looking back, thinking about my life. Do I regret anything that I did? Because based on studies, over 70% of the people, 76% to be exact actually, of those people who are in retirement homes in their 80s and 90s, if you ask them what their regrets are, it's not the mistakes that these people regret, but it's the inaction It's the things that they never had enough courage to do during their lives when they still had time. So I motivate myself, picturing myself in my deathbed, looking back and saying, do I regret anything that I did or I didn't? And now facing those same dilemmas or decisions in my daily life, I try to picture myself being 90 or 95 in that retirement home, asking myself, if I'm 50-50 on a decision, which path should I take? The one with short-term pain or the one with short-term pleasure? And I always pick the one with short-term pain. At least I try my very best. Because I firmly believe in this principle. Easy decisions, hard life. Hard decisions, easy life. Fear is an inch deep but mile wide. When you step into that water, you realize that it wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty shallow. Number 3, impatience with actions, patience with results. Act on inspiration immediately. It doesn't take a genius to get great results in life, but we really need to take action. The added bonus with doing something is that it actually fixes our feelings too. Many people wait for the right feelings to take actions, but actually it's the other way around. We should take action no matter what, and the right feelings will follow. And this is where it gets super, super hard in life, because there will be plenty of ups and downs. There will be plenty of those mornings when we don't feel like getting up and going for a run, waking up at 5 in the morning. But what happens if we do? We take action regardless of the feelings on that rough morning. The right feelings will follow. We come back, we take a shower, we eat breakfast, we feel like $1 million. That's the benefit of taking action over feelings. Another thing regarding this number 3 is that we need to understand that it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort on top of that initial action to get really good at something. One of my guiding principles under this is that I don't take on any new projects, relationships, or job opportunities unless I'm willing to commit to them for at least 5 years. I ask myself, if presented a business opportunity, that am I willing to work on this 100% for the next 5 years? If the answer is no, honestly, then I don't even get started, because there will be too much distraction and it's away from something else. Because the better we get, the more money we have, the shinier the objects always look on the other side of the fence. So it gets harder and harder to say no to those outside opportunities and keep your head down and just execute and get really, really good at that core thing that you started a long time ago. But action is the number 1 step. Number 4 is my absolute favorite. It's called work is the goal. What this means in practice is that we need to disconnect ourselves from the outcome, from the expectations and pressures of the outside world. Our only goal is to play a single player game and compete against ourselves. I used to be one of those people back in the day, and this started in my early 20s already when I bought my first personal development book. And I firmly believed in the fact that we had to visualize our goals, make them extremely concrete, look at them, stare at them daily, so that we could have the best possible chance to achieve them one day. But what I didn't understand was that by doing that, we become very dependent on the outcome. We become almost addicted to the goal itself and achieving it. And then when we potentially achieve that goal one day, we don't necessarily feel anything. And we become disappointed. If our happiness is based on external things, material validations, other people's opinions, we'll never be happy. Work is the goal means in practice that instead of staring at that end goal of reaching 1 million a year in annual revenue or getting another car or a bigger house, we identify what the daily actions are. What is it the winning actions look like? And then we just execute. We keep on doing those things day after day. It sounds boring, but it's the only way, in my opinion, because that guarantees happiness, because the work is the goal. And we measure our success based on if we left everything out there during that day. Our tank is empty. instead of staring at that end goal and identifying our happiness based on that. Because we can't control the timing. The outcome will be there if we do the right things, that's for sure. But when we decouple the end result from the work itself, we're already a long way there. The other thing related to this, which is hugely important, is that in life we play only infinite games. An infinite game is a game that never ends. It doesn't have a winner and a loser. Politics is a power game. In order for you to have a winner, you have to have a loser. Business can be a win-win game. Our goal is not to reach that beach body by next summer, but our goal is to stay healthy, stay married, and do the right things. So it's not about the outcome, but it's about understanding what those daily winning actions are, and those being the actual goal. Number 5, do what feels like play to you, but work to others. Nobody's gonna beat you at being you. Find out which game feels slow to you, that slows down in front of your eyes while others struggle to keep up with the pace. They used to say that Wayne Gretzky, probably the best hockey player ever, was one of those guys who was able to have or see the game slow down in front of his eyes. That's exactly what we mean by this. To those players, to those of us out there, we see the game slowing down while others struggle to keep up with the pace. And I firmly believe that we are all good at something. The hard part is to find that because of all those outside expectations. How many of us struggle with the internal family pressure of becoming a practitioner of law or a doctor because everybody else in the family is a doctor or a lawyer, while we might want to do something completely different, like run a flower shop? That's where it gets really hard, to fight against that outside pressure. But what we need to do is to ignore all of that and just stick to our core principles, finding what interests us, and then working really hard. And eventually, after years, that initial interest turns into passion. Some people say that we should never mix passion with work because everything ends up turning to work. I don't agree with that. I actually firmly believe in the fact that finding an interest area and then turning that into passion is the only way how we can stay in the game long enough. Because knowing that everything turns to work at some point, if that or whatever turned to work is closer to our heart, we have a greater chance of being successful in that particular business or area of life. Number 6, focus on right now. This is again one of my personal favorites and a big one for me. Of the 9, there are 3 big ones personally that I have been able to change quite a bit when it comes to my own personal behavior and performance, and this is one of the 3. What this means is that if you think about it, we only have past, present, and future. Nobody has ever been able to change the past or predict the future. So that takes care of 2 out of the 3. And the only thing left is right now. But most of us, me included in the past, I was one of those people who walked down the street and my mind was always, 99% of my focus was always on what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow. And I forgot, I missed out on all the opportunity when it comes to the abundance and beauty around me, whether it's people, places, weather, anything and everything. And this is one of the biggest issues, in my personal opinion, about happiness. When we learn how to focus on right now, and we can block all the noise from the past and not worry about the future, we can focus on right now. This is one of the most important things to learn. It increased my personal happiness and my productivity at least by 5x. And understanding that internal peace is the ultimate goal. Why? Because peace can be turned into happiness at any given time. Happiness is a state where nothing is missing. We are completely satisfied. We are completely happy with what we have. And when we learn how to focus on right now, we are very close to that. We need to be grateful. What worked for me is that I started journaling, writing down the things that I was grateful for. But then one might ask, okay, what about innovation? What about getting better in life? Because if all of us all 8 billion people on this planet were just happy with what they have, we would never get any innovation. Nothing would improve. And I completely agree. But the secret here is one desire at a time. And this is super important. I think we many times make the mistake of trying to change 10 things and then failing because it's impossible. If you think about it, if I hired a personal trainer, I wanted to get healthier, and I had trouble with smoking, alcohol, eating habits, and not exercising. 4 major areas. So if I try to change everything all at once, what would be my chance of success? Probably close to 0. But what if I focused on just learning how to live without smoking first, getting used to that the next 6 months? Yes, it's a long process, but that's the sustainable one. And then when that becomes a habit, then I reduce my alcohol consumption. And then the list goes on and on and on. So the secret is one desire at a time. And ultimately, what we get is something sustainable. And we get to that level where things improve and we see the innovation that we are after. But focusing on right now is the key. 7, become an owner and a creator. You won't get wealthy by renting out your time. You need to own a piece of business, own assets to gain your financial freedom. Assets could be in the form of real estate, mutual funds, stocks, or an actual business. But the key is that these assets need to produce while you sleep. Otherwise, you'll always be a slave working for somebody else, putting your life in the hands of somebody else. Because economies, they go up and down. When there are firings or people lay employees off, you don't want to be in that boat. You want to control your own future down the road. An important part of this is to play long-term games with long-term people, identifying those business partners who have high integrity, honesty, and competence in their toolbox. We need to learn how to sell, build, and lead, and in that order. Why? Let me explain. Sell comes first because every small business owner needs to promote and market his or her company more. Anybody under $1 million or $2 million a year needs to promote minimum 4 to 5 hours a day. And sales skills, marketing skills, promotion skills are the ones that we typically lack the most in the beginning. So that's to get started. Why build? Because eventually we need to be able to build products, services, so that the brand gets to a level where it needs to be. Without product and service excellence, there's no point existing as a business owner. You don't want to be in the mushy middle. You want to shoot for that category of 1 where you can set your own pricing and get the premiums that you deserve. Lead. In order to grow your business, you need to learn how to lead people. Nobody's going to follow idiots. And this ties me back to one of the key points as part of this, which is leverage. There are actually 4. People, capital, code, and content. Use your specific knowledge, the thing that you are good at. Apply that with high integrity and honesty, coupled with leverage, and you can shoot for the stars. The new forms of leverage are called code and content. This is the leverage behind the newly rich, the people on social media, the businesses that grow like rockets. People and money are the old forms of leverage. They have existed for hundreds of years. You need somebody to follow you if you're a leader. That's the people part. If you need money or capital, you need somebody to give it to you. You need to have an idea first. But with code and content, you can pretty much control your own destiny. Typically, a business success is a combination of all of these because we typically need all 4 forms of leverage in different parts of our entrepreneurial journey. Number 8, learn how to say no. A gigantic one for me. Probably the most important thing for me to learn personally out of the 9. I always thought in the past that everything good is on the other side of yes. So I was basically a yes man. I wasn't pleasing anybody, quite the opposite in many cases, but I was the one who believed firmly that I had the ability to fix everything. show me a problem. And even if people told me that no, it requires a lot of focus, I'm like, okay, I can do it, I can handle it, until I realized eventually that I'm no different, obviously. And over the last couple of years, I've come a long way in learning how to say no. And this is super, super important to me. As the old saying goes, a distracted person, a distracted genius to be exact, will always lose to the one with singular focus and no distractions. And this took me forever to understand, both personally and in business life. And I think this is the number one reason why some of my projects and companies haven't grown more than what they actually did. Because I was just incapable of saying no to many things. Because I couldn't connect the dots. By saying no to many things, I say yes to the ones that matter the most. And also, this shiny object syndrome. Grass always looks greener on the other side of the fence. The more successful we are, the more money we have, the more skilled we are, that grass starts to look shinier and greener always on the other side of the fence. So that means in practice that saying no actually gets harder and harder. So we get to test our true ability in this regard almost every day. And nowadays, I just practice this. I have to remind myself daily how to do this. But what helps me tremendously is that 5-year rule that I mentioned earlier in this video about asking myself, is this something that I want to put my 100% focus on for at least for the next 5 years? And if the answer is no, deep down, trusting my intuition, which is always right, I have to say no. Because I know that if I say yes to this opportunity now, it's always away from something else. And if you think about it, we all have 100%. That's our focus bandwidth. If we divide that 100% into 5 different projects, meaning each project gets only 20%, how could we ever expect to compete against someone who puts his or her 100% into that? So 20% versus 100%. Going back to the initial statement about that distracted genius, it doesn't matter how smart we are, but if we don't have a singular focus and zero disruptions, there's no way we can succeed. And understanding that no is actually the new yes. Number 9, my last point. Wealth, health, and happiness. People chase them in this order, but their actual importance is reverse. So happiness comes first, closely linked to health, and then wealth is a byproduct of doing the right things. But this is how we chase them typically. People think that the external validation, the material things, the money, the house, or the yacht is the one that's going to make me happy. And those people are the ones who typically also blame others. When we are able to cut ties to material things and understand the real order of importance, we are on the right path. We can also refer to a recent study conducted among centenarians. Centenarian is a person who reached the age of 100 years. And that study revealed, when asked these people about the secret of reaching that age, they actually listed 3 things. Number 1, you need to have your why, your strong purpose in life. Why do you get up every morning and what is it that you're doing, trying to achieve? Number 2, you need to have loving, supporting relationships in your life. And number 3, you have to move that body. When you stop moving the body stops moving. So those 3 things, probably together with a healthy diet, just adding my 4th thing, are the secrets to a long life, if that's our goal. But understanding that happiness should be our number 1 goal, I think, is a very good starting point.